of something other than just the belief that Israel can do no wrong in American politics, which is pretty important. You're listening to Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in on this fine day, whenever you may be listening. Really appreciate it. We're talking about Israel, but now we're going to turn tides, and we're going to talk maybe, just maybe, a little bit about the 2020 presidential campaign. We got another 2 great articles, 2 great stories, an op-ed, 2 op-eds actually, I want to break down for you on the president's choice about Joe Biden and white males in 2020. Oh, this should be good. Should be good, folks. Should be good. All right, so, yeah. The first one is one of my favorite writers, podcast hosts, people out there, Mehdi Hassan. Shout out to him. He has one out about Joe Biden, saying, quote, Joe Biden's Hillary 2.0. Democrats would be mad to nominate him. Him and Ryan Cooper in The Week had 2 great articles about this. Really making a conclusive case against Joseph R. Biden. His name may not be R, but I don't know. I actually just kind of made that up there. Anyway, so he starts off, have Democrats gone mad? Are they really planning on putting up the same type of candidate? He is British, by the way. Against Donald Trump in 2020, they put up against him in 2016. Is the party bent on nominating Hillary 2.0, but again, as an all-white male that they seem to hate so much? More on that in a second. How else to describe Joe Biden, the former vice president and ex-senator from Delaware, who's leading in the polls and has hinted he'd reveal whether he's running for president in a few weeks and might select a running mate earlier in the process. I've heard speculation from our very own James Stanley that it could possibly be Stacey Abrams, which would be interesting. Having a black woman with an old white dude on the ticket, there's definitely a ethnic contrast there. You're gonna have to forget his very well crafted blue collar uncle at the end of the bar persona, and you're going to have to ignore for a second, if you can. If you just put that very strong claim of being the quote most progressive record of anybody running for president, just put that aside for a second. Consider instead the sheer number of similarities he seems to have with the vanquished Democratic presidential candidate of 2016, Hillary Clinton. Iraq war supporter? Check. Clinton was pilloried by the left and the right alike as a wild-eyed hawk. Her vote in favor of the Iraq invasion haunted her in both 2008 and the 2016 campaigns. In fact, a study by 2 academics in 2017 found a significant and meaningful relationship between the community's rate of military service and its support for Trump. And suggested that if Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan had suffered even a modestly low casualty rate, they could have sent Hillary Clinton to the White House. That's interesting study there. But I mean, I think military people just generally like Trump. It doesn't matter what you do. If Joe Biden runs, he will be the only candidate out of up to the 20 Democrats running who have openly voted for the Iraq War. As the influential chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in the run-up to the invasion, Biden falsely claimed the United States had no choice but to eliminate the threat from Saddam Hussein. A former UN weapons inspector even accused the then senator of running a sham committee hearing that provided political cover for the massive military attack on Iraq. So he was more than involved in Hillary Clinton. He didn't just vote for it like she did. He, actually helped and aided it. He supported it. All the things Hillary Clinton supported, Joe Biden was like, yeah, let's do it. Come on, guys. When Hillary Clinton was just supporting from him. Joe Biden is actually enthusiastically bad, if you get what I'm saying there. So that is something for you about Joe Biden. He really kind of sucks. I don't know if you guys know that. He really is also, I don't know if you knew, a friend of Wall Street. Clinton had a Goldman Sachs problem. Biden has an MBNA problem. Headquartered in his home state of Delaware, the credit card giant MBNA was his biggest donor when he served in the Senate. In 2005, Biden threw his weight behind the bankruptcy bill, signed into law by George W. Bush that shamefully protected credit card companies at the expense of borrowers. The National Review, even the National Review, probably one of those pro-corporatist neocon organizations out there, even attacked Biden as the senator from MBNA. The then senator's son, Hunter, even went to work for the company while his father was pushing through the bankruptcy bill. Mehdi Hassan writes, there's a word for that, Trumpian. Yeah, that's about right. That sounds about right. That does sound like something that Trump would do, but, I mean, yeah, you don't often see that level of just brazen corruption every day. As in 2016, Bernie Sanders will be bashing the banks and have a 40-year record of bashing the banks to back that up for him. And his fellow frontrunner will be defending them, saying, quote, I love Bernie, but I'm not Bernie Sanders. Biden confirmed in a speech in May 2018, I don't think 500 billionaires are the reason we're in trouble. The folks at the top aren't bad guys. So that's what he says. Yeah, and I think the fact that he's really been doubling down on this rhetoric seems like he really is out of touch and in for a rude awakening. When he says this kind of stuff, when he's in the debates, I mean, the reason why he's in the polls is, he's so high in the polls is because he's still, again, he has that persona. He has that kind of good guy, nice uncle at the end of the bar kind of deal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, hey, I'm Uncle Joe. Let me give you that talk. You did good, kid. And like, just kind of leather jacket wearing, picks you up from the baseball game. Like, he really has that good politician's persona. He knows how to talk, but he does not know what to say at this moment in time, which, when he starts talking, people actually really start listening, I think is going to be very, very bad for him. Championing mass incarceration? Check. Clinton took flack for supporting the 1994 crime bill of her husband, but helped push up the U.S. prison population, introduced new federal death penalties, and hugely exacerbated racial disparities in the criminal justice system, so war on drugs, stuff like that. New federal death penalty crimes, push up the U.S. prison population, all that stuff. Clinton supported it at the time, and remember how I said Biden enthusiastically is worse than Hillary Clinton because he supported even harsher the things that Hillary Clinton supported? Well, the thing is, Joe Biden actually wrote that bill. Remember how Clinton's defense of the 1994 bill came back to Biden in 2016, saying, quote, there are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. We need to bring them to heal. I mean, you really think Biden's decades-long tough on crime rhetoric will hurt him too, especially with minority voters too, that everyone seems to love him for? Here's what he says. One of my objectives, quite frankly, is to lock Willie Horton up in jail, he declared in 1990. I don't care if someone's a malefactor in society, he said in 1993, as he mocked wacko Democrats for trying to understand the causes of crime. I don't care why someone's antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cord them off from the rest of society. Yeah, so it's like, let's not try to fix the problem. Let's just try to separate the problem as far away from us as possible. So, like, that always works out incredibly well, right? He said in 2007, my greatest accomplishment is the 1994 crime bill. Wow. Millions of black voters refused to turn after Clinton in 2016. Why wouldn't they do the same in response to a Biden candidacy in 2020? He's also incredibly establishment friendly. The Clintons arrived in Washington, D.C. in 1993. Clinton then spent 8 years in the Senate and 4 years in Barack Obama's cabinet. Her husband was also the president, by the way. Biden arrived in D.C. literally 20 years earlier than the Clintons did. He spent 36 years in the Senate and 8 years in Obama's cabinet. When Trump tries to run as an anti-establishment outsider in 2020, what will Biden's response be? Will he be able to challenge that? Will it be effective? No, it won't. All Trump's going to do is say fake news and say, you like the credit card companies, Joe. You like the banks, the big banks. Like, that's what's going to happen. I'm sorry for my bad Trump impersonation. Yeah. You think deplorable Zion from Hillary Clinton was bad? You cringe at Pokemon Go to the polls? The vice president has a long list of Bidenisms. Remember when he asked a state senator in a wheelchair to stand up and let him see you? Or when he told the largely African-American audience that Mitt Romney was going to put y'all back in chains? Or when he said, you cannot go to a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent? I mean, there are a bunch of creepy Joe Biden videos. Like, there's just weird stuff. And let's be honest, the chances he hasn't gotten some Me Too in there, I mean, let's be real. There's some Me Too in there. Like, can we be perfectly real for a second? Yeah, he's also a loser. Clinton won the Democratic nomination in 2016 at the second attempt, having been defeated by Obama 8 years earlier. For Biden, it would have to be third time lucky. Supporters might not want you to remember this, but he's already run for president twice already. In 1987, he quit the Democratic primary race within 3 months after announcing because he was accused of plagiarizing parts of his speech. 30 years later, he decided to run again. 30 years later. 31, actually. He dropped out after coming fifth in the Iowa caucus and winning less than 1% of the vote. So very, very, very chill. So where now he says, a quote, I think anybody could beat him in talking about Trump. Like, anyone maybe except for you, Joe Biden. Maybe I wouldn't think about running. Literally every vulnerability he has and worse. Trump. Every vulnerability Biden has, Trump. Every vulnerability Clinton has, Biden has, and worse. He's also. I mentioned this before on the show. He's took money to campaign for Republicans, or a Republican in a battleground state in the 2018 midterms. Literally no joke. 2018 midterms. He's campaigned for Republicans, took money for it as well. He said Mike Pence is a good guy. Like, do you think are you familiar with the base of the Democratic Party here, people? Like he knows how to relate to people. Joe Biden does, but he is not the right guy for this moment. He has awful policies. Just one of the worst candidates. Like, if you ever think Joe Biden's about to go anywhere, you're a joke. Sorry. Don't pay attention to anyone who says Joe Biden's gonna win the Democratic nomination. Jesus. I mean, literally, if Joe Biden wins the Democratic nomination, I'll do something crazy. I swear to God. Okay. Yeah. Speaking of Joe Biden, he's got some other white male candidates in the race. I want to read this article. Alexis Grenell wrote it in the Daily Beast, and it's a hoot. She writes, to the white man running to be the Democratic presidential candidate, can you not? If you're a white man talking about not me but us, it's time to step back and let us do our thing. Yeah, and I don't think Bernie's including you in us there, Alexis. So let's see. Let's find out about Alexis. She's a political strategist. She writes about gender and power. Her work is appeared in the Daily News, New York Times, El Diario, Newsday, and the New York Post. Yeah, and again, her hatred of like white males. I mean, I don't know too much about her background, but like, assuming. All right, so yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get into here with this, and so I'm just reading this through. There's a lot of juice in here. Let me tell you. Oh my God. So she's saying, all right, yeah, Alexis Grenell. I mean, I don't think she hasn't said, like, I've been Googling her for a little bit, but she hasn't came from, like the fact that she has this just epidemic hatred of white males and just white males doing things, white males, like, making decisions, and it just seems to be so just absolutely incredible and visceral. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, I just don't think it's natural. Like, sure, you can be I consider myself to be like someone who supports the equality of men and women, like the wage gap, all that stuff. I am completely on the side of the feminists on that situation. But this is, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It's literally ridiculous. She starts off by saying, Bernie Sanders announced his 2020 campaign for president the same day Elizabeth Warren released her plan for subsidized childcare, and I nearly had an aneurysm. So it's literally sexist for a Bernie Sanders to announce his 2020 campaign the day a woman does something. And I personally don't know if Bernie Sanders has a child care plan. Like, this is literally the first 3 lines, two and a quarter lines of the article. And first of all, okay, it's not sexist for a man to do something while a woman is doing something, both of consequence. And the idea that Bernie Sanders is completely devoid of policy is so ridiculous. He's probably been the most substantive for the longest time. He's been straight policy for 40 years, and the fact that, like, you don't see that and you say you support it for Bernie Sanders, like in 2016, I don't get it. I really don't get where the thought process is on that. And I'm sure